What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the Butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, say it with me. Please hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And just a huge thank you for being here. Yesterday over on YouTube, we did have some new members. We had Chad Robinson, Sepultura PB, and Heart Abduction. As always, a huge thank you for your support. It really does mean the world, and for everyone to get involved with the channel and take the time out of your days to be here, it's absolutely incredible of you to do so. So thank you so much, and with that being said, let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story does have an update with it as well, and it's called Am I the Arsehole for Not Letting My Son's Bio Family Meet Him? For some background, my eldest son was the product of a very short-lived relationship, but his mother and I got on fairly well and were able to co-parent. When he was 12, his mum died unexpectedly, so he came into my care full-time. Son also had a younger half-brother who was 2. Social services didn't want to separate them. I didn't want to be in the system and had the resources for another child, so I took in the younger brother. I was told that his bio dad had parental rights terminated, but his extended family had been informed of the situation and might ask for visitation. Nobody ever reached out. The boys are now 17 and 7, and the 3 of us are very close. 7 was adopted into the family just before Christmas last year. About a week ago, I received a message from a woman claiming to be a member of 7's extended family, Dad's side, asking if she could meet him. I pretty much told her that he has been adopted, they'll have to wait until he's ready to meet them, but said that I would take her contact details when he asks. She wasn't happy with this, and I've since received dozens of messages a day from 7's relatives about how awful I am for keeping him away from them. I'm definitely of the opinion that they had their chance, and now that 7 is adopted, it's up to him whether or not he has a relationship with them. To date, he's only really ever asked about his mum and her family, never his dad's. Am I the arsehole? Now, there is an update to this post as well, let's not forget that, but I am going to say not the arsehole straight away in this situation, simply because if we read the story, it says they had 5 years to be in contact. 5 years is a huge amount of time to get in contact, and they never did that. So yeah, I think you did the right thing, and you was an adult in the situation. You said if the child does decide, then I will get in contact, and you took their contact details, which I think is completely the right thing to do. However, I will throw a little spanner into the works. And I'm just trying to figure out why that person wouldn't be in contact sooner, but now suddenly does want to. So maybe this is all hypothetical and I'm just putting it out there. Imagine this situation that they only really did just find out about this child. And I know that's a very unlikely situation, but certainly a possibility, right? And I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time in the world something like that has happened. Or say that person was in the army and they was out on a tour or something like that and they've only just come back. Would that make it any better in this situation, do you think? But obviously, please make your judgments based on the original story. I'm just throwing out these little things because they go through my head all the time. And someone's got to listen to them, right? And Miss Angelic Jones says, not the arsehole. They had 5 years of time to make it clear they wanted to be in his life. You're doing the right thing by protecting him. And Lucid Out Work says, not the arsehole. I'm not sure how the family thinks that sending dozens of messages to you a day is going to want to make you let them see your son. After 7 years and no contact from them, because of how they are harassing you, I would be cautious about setting up any type of visitation. Diagnosed Wolf says, info. Why did it take 5 years for this person to contact you? OP replies, no clue. I guess that's a question for them. I think it'd be a pretty extraordinary reason to be valid. Very few of them exist. Only just found out that so-and-so had a child or was in hospital battling a terminal illness for the last 5 years are pretty much the only ones I can really think might make their lateness acceptable. Even so, it's still your decision whether or not your son meets them. Not the arsehole. I was just curious as to their excuse for being so long in coming. And that was my thoughts as well with all that stuff going through my head. And Nomadicus Rex says, not the arsehole. As a parent, you have to do what you think is right for him. This is probably not something a 7-year-old needs to deal with, since you are the only father he has ever known, and the biological family obviously has issues. And I did say we have an update, and so we're going to head on to that one right away. So, after my verdict, I did what quite a few people suggested and contacted a lawyer. Thankfully, a pretty basic cease and desist letter seemed to stop the messages, though I am keeping a few business cards at hand just in case things take a turn. I know there were a lot of questions after my post, and I only really found out the answers to these when I asked 17 if he knew anything. He would have been only 11 or 12 at the time and was spending every second week with me, but he filled in some gaps. As I mentioned in my last post, I was aware of Seven's biological father having his rights terminated. For the sake of everyone involved, I won't disclose too many details, but a big part was a felony conviction. While the boy's mum didn't ask the courts to do this, she certainly didn't object to it and didn't want to sustain contact between Seven and his father. 17 has now informed me that the paternal grandparents saw this as a huge betrayal and tried several times to have secret contact between Seven and his father. Eventually, they were also cut off. Based on this, I'm guessing if I had to say yes to him meeting his family, the bio father would have entered the picture at some point. I'm still unsure what caused the sudden urgency in needing contact since the father is still in prison. I'm also not entirely sure why they didn't want custody when he was 2, but it probably either has to do with the parental rights thing being terminated or them not wanting to deal with a toddler and go through all the requirements for taking care of him, the latter being 17's theory. As to how they found my private Facebook, the only thing we can assume is they found a family members, either accidentally or on purpose, and went from there. Our surname is pretty uncommon, and I'm guessing they recognised it's 17's surname. All photos of the boys have now been removed and everyone's social media is on maximum privacy. It also seems that the messages were only ever directed at me. Obviously, this is all just educated guesses, but at the very least I know a bit more now. At this stage, I would rather keep Seven's biological family limited to his mother's side, who he knows quite well. Seven doesn't know this happened, and I would like to keep it that way. I'd also like to thank everyone who gave their time to give me an outside perspective on the situation. It really did help to have outsiders tell me that I was not the arsehole. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your year and 2021. Now let's not forget, this guy sounds like an amazing dad to these children, and I think it's kind of a happy ending in this story at the moment. You know, he did leave it in the child's hand to, make their own decision when they feel like it, and I think that is the best thing that can happen in this situation. Obviously them stalking on Facebook and stuff like that is a bit concerning, and I would certainly let schools and places they will be know about it, because you don't want them turning up to school and trying to visit the child when you're not there. But yes, absolutely crazy one. What do you guys think of this situation? Let us know in the comments below. And our next story is from College or Rehab. Am I the arsehole for not using my daughter's college fund for my Stepsons Rehab? The title basically sums it up, I suppose. My husband and I have been married for 3 years now. I have a daughter 15 female, he has a son 24 male. I am friendly with my stepson, but we aren't close. He has a biological mother who is a perfectly fine woman. I'm not here to take the role of his mum. My late husband, my daughter's father, died when my daughter was 6. We both contributed to her college fund. My daughter's paternal grandparents have also contributed a large amount. Right now the fund is about $180,000. My daughter is extremely bright, and I'm not just saying that because I'm her mum. I truly believe she has the capacity to go on to Ivy League school, and her teachers have said that she has the potential as well, and I don't want the cost to hold her back. Our income would be too high to get any meaningful financial aid, and while there are a few merit-based scholarships out there that she would be applying to, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket and hope she gets it when it's so competitive. My current husband and I have separate finances. He doesn't contribute at all to my daughter's fund. My stepson is struggling with a heroin addiction and has stolen money, jewellery, heirlooms and electronics for drug money. I understand that addiction is a disease, and I personally paid for an outpatient detox for him, which cost $1,000, which failed. His father then paid for an outpatient rehab program, which cost $6,500, which also didn't work because he barely showed up. He promised us he'd do better next time, and he needed another chance. So I split the cost of another $6,500 outpatient rehab program with my husband, which seemed to work during the program, but he relapsed as soon as he got out of it. I've spent so much money, time and energy, and it hasn't helped at all. My husband and my stepson want to try a 60-day inpatient rehab program, which will cost $30,000. I had absolutely no idea where they were supposed to get the money for that, considering the thousands and thousands of dollars that they were already spent, and the fact that we no longer had anything of value in our house. They want to use my daughter's college fund, which to me is absolutely off limits. I feel like it's completely unfair to my daughter to punish her for my stepson's addiction. Unfair to my late husband and his parents, but frankly, I don't think spending $30,000 will work. My husband thinks I'm an arsehole because I'm prioritising my daughter's education over his son's life, and believes his medical needs come first. He then asked my daughter if she'd be willing to use $30,000 from her fund to pay for her stepbrother's rehab, and she got very quiet and did not answer. He then got very upset with her and said she was being selfish. My daughter later told me that she didn't want to give her stepbrother the money, but she felt so guilty, and I'm furious at my husband for emotionally guilt-tripping my daughter like that. Oh man, addiction is such a horrible thing, and I really do feel sorry for that stepson for what they're going through, but this is going to sound horrible, but I don't think you can keep piling money into this, especially at the cost of your daughter's education. And I don't think it's not your stepbrother's money, it's not your husband's money, and even in some ways it's not your money anymore, OP. That is all for your daughter. Your previous husband paid into that, the grandparents paid into that, and you've paid into that for one purpose, and I think it should stay as that. I know it's incredibly hard to see someone going through addiction and thinking there might be a way you can help them, but at the same time, would it help them in the end? I've heard stories of where people really need to hit rock bottom before they turn themselves around, especially it sounds like the same sort of situation I've read before, where they've gone into different types of rehab and they just don't go, they don't attend to it and all this kind of thing. And this is a story where I could see there being some, you're the arsehole verdicts for this, because no one wants to see another human suffer, with an addiction, but at the same time, you don't want your daughter to suffer either, and you want the best for her, so I can totally understand, but my opinion on this would be a not the arsehole, in my opinion, of course. But Cypher Max says not the arsehole and quotes, they want to use my daughter's college fund, which to me is absolutely off limits, and then says that's not up to you, them, or anyone. That's your daughter's money in all but name. Your husband paid into it, your daughter's grandparents paid into it, you paid into it for her, not for some kid that half these people don't know. And then quotes, he got very upset with her and said she was being selfish. Why did you allow this? Why are you allowing this to be your daughter's concern? Why is she being put in this position? I get that you're furious, but that is way over the line. This shouldn't be an am I the arsehole for refusing. This should be, so I left the guy because he crossed the line and made my daughter feel accountable for an addict because she wouldn't agree to give $30,000 designated for her future. Addiction is a serious problem, and I'm sorry for your stepson and his dad, but not sorry enough to excuse what they're trying to pull here. Your daughter is not a cash cow for them to raid when it suits. The kid has stolen your money and your property, and he's trying to steal your daughter's future. And I totally skipped over the stealing from you thing as well, which is crazy in itself, and your husband to, be putting pressure on your daughter is absolutely disgusting behavior in my opinion. And then there's American Girl saying, not the arsehole, absolutely, I'll share a personal story. My son was a heroin addict, and we spent a lot of money on various rehabs, including what should have been spent for his college. Nothing worked, and eventually we told him that we'd no longer be contributing to rehab, bail money, or lawyers. He could sit in jail and enjoy the bologna sandwiches and the public defender. We still loved him, and I allowed him to take showers at my house and eat my food, but that was it. Eventually, he got tired of living like a bum. All he had was his addiction. One day, all on his own, he decided to apply to a local outpatient methadone clinic. They had paperwork requirements. He did them. There were other hoops to jump through, and he fulfilled them. If they said show up at 5 AM, he got up early and went. I didn't nag him or remind him. This was all new, encouraging behaviour, and I was holding my breath, hoping that he was really serious this time. This was 6 or 7 years ago. He's been off opiates completely for 5 years after slowly weaning off the methadone. Now he works for a federal agency, lives with his non-addict girlfriend, has money in the bank and applied and received a pardon from his state for his misdemeanors, which he is now able to get a job. We let him hit rock bottom and detach himself from his addiction while still loving him. It could have gone either way, we were just lucky, but he had to climb out that hole. If your stepson really wants to change his life, it's up to him to do it. Ooh, why am I getting emotional with that one? Jesus. And I guess thinking about it, it's like knowing someone has to go that low. It kills me to think that another human has to get that low to the point of sort of life and death before they can turn their lives around. It's absolutely crazy, and it's inspiring that someone can do that too. But I'm going to turn this one straight to you guys. What do you guys think of the situation, and what should OP do in it? Do you think they're right not giving this money? Is there any other way that they could help, the stepson out in this situation, or have they done enough? Let us know in the comments below. Now, before we get into this story, a little trigger warning that this story does involve miscarriage and talking about miscarriage and things like that. So if you do want to skip it, as I said, timestamps are down in the description below. And our next story is from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for filing a complaint against my doctor after she gave my mum my medical information? I want to start by saying that I, female 25, don't have the best relationship with my mum. I have an older sister, and growing up, my mum has always tended to control me and try to override any decisions I make, saying that I was young and naive and she always knew better. I cut contact with her for a few months after she tried to get involved in my marriage. My husband and I have been together for 3 years, and he has always been telling me to be more gentle with my mum. I had a miscarriage a few days ago. It's devastating, and I really thought it'd get easier, but I'm still feeling excruciating pain and frustration. We were happy and excited, but all that disappeared suddenly, and it was hard for me to take because I thought everything was fine. I didn't tell anyone, especially since I'm currently dealing with some health issues. I didn't tell anyone in the family. My husband promised not to tell until I'm ready. My mum kept asking me questions and brought up my pregnancy constantly, and my answers were short, because I didn't want her to know, since she'd call everybody and let them know. She's always like that, and that's why I tend to keep things private. I decided not to visit for a couple of days, hoping she'd stop asking questions. Then I found out on Facebook that my mum announced my miscarriage on her page, and I didn't know about that. I was shocked, I freaked out when I started getting calls from my family members, and I had no idea how many people knew about it. I was so mad at the point of shaking. Everyone kept berating me for not telling them. I called my mum and I yelled at her. She defended herself, saying she was just looking for support and that I should have told her about it the first time. She asked what was wrong. I asked her who told her, and she said she had a talk with my doctor, but I shouldn't be mad because she's my mum and she had the right to know what's going on. I argued with her about getting involved in my personal life and disregarding my feelings and cutting me off guard like that. I went to the doctor and I lashed out at her for releasing my private medical information to my mum and causing me to deal with everyone asking why I was hiding my miscarriage from them, even though I was just waiting for the right time. I told my doctor that I was going to file a complaint against her the same day, since she didn't respect my privacy and decided to give my mum information about my medical records. My mum heard and started berating me, saying it wasn't the doctor's fault and that she was a friend of hers and she knew her years ago, but I didn't know about it. She said I went too far and acted like my family were strangers. She said that she's my mum and I didn't need to overreact like that. All I needed was time and space. Now I have to deal with all the stress and I'm a mess right now. My brother texted me a few minutes ago and said he wants to come over and talk to me. He was the first to call me and berated me and said I was being hostile towards everyone for no reason. I haven't replied to this text yet, but I don't want to see anyone right now. I can't take one more word from them. Now, we know what the answer is going to be on this story, that your doctor broke the HIPAA violations, so they should be reported for what they did, because how many other people are they doing this to? And this is really, really private information for them, and that's the exact reason these rules are in place, is so your mum can't go onto Facebook and then start telling everyone about what's going on. Well, the rules are not exactly for that, but they are certainly part of the reason for that. What goes through her head that she has the right to go onto Facebook and post private information like this about you? That is absolutely despicable behavior in my opinion, and I'd be really, really angry about this too. So we know you're definitely not going to be the arsehole in this situation, but the Empress is in says, not the arsehole, they violated HIPAA, report them. Nothing else matters. This is a violation of law and you're suffering hardship due to it. And Fantasy EXO says, not the arsehole. As a matter of fact, if what you are saying is 100% true, your doctor broke HIPAA violation, and that is grounds for termination at the very least. And Paprika1321 says, not the arsehole, HIPAA is there for a reason, report the doctor. And Tokugawa says, not the arsehole, those rules exist and the doctor is supposed to follow them no matter the circumstance. And that's pretty much how the comments continue. Just report them to HIPAA for what they've done. Absolutely. You can't turn back time now. Your family knows about it. So this is a situation that, you either going to have to forgive at some stage or, wipe them out your lives for what they did. Your mum certainly needs some huge boundaries put in front of her before what she's doing. That's disgusting. And that she sees no wrong in it too. It's one of these situations I'd almost say cut contact, because they're just going to keep pushing themselves into your life. But what do you think of this situation? Let us know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Office Drama. Am I the arsehole for not rehiring a guy who quit because I wouldn't fire his ex-wife? I'm a manager of a tight-knit department. For whatever reason, we've had several people from my department start dating, even get married. Corporate policy used to say you couldn't date your co-workers, but it happened so often that they couldn't enforce it. So they just have people who want to date each other sign a form saying it's consensual, it won't distract from the working environment, etc. I have no idea if that's legally enforceable, but we haven't had any problems with it, except for recently obviously. One thing I always make clear to my employees is that I don't want to hear about their relationship drama, and I don't want it to affect work. It's one thing if someone was abusive or is harassing you, then take it to HR, but if they're texting their ex-girlfriend or some shit, keep that fight at home. I used to have 2 employees, a married couple, who had the same role. For example, they were both technicians. But the wife was definitely better at her job than her husband. She was someone I felt like was constantly stepping up and went beyond the standard. Someone who could certainly take on a leadership role. Her husband was a fine worker, just average I guess. Last year she cheated on him and it was an absolute shit show. I know because the husband tried to do one of those expose the cheater things during a casual work party, which was incredibly awkward for everyone else there. I told him not to bring the relationship drama into the workplace as per the form he signed, and he told me that she started it by cheating and that I should fire her for being a cheater. I said I wouldn't fire her. He kept insisting, ultimately said it was him or her, and when I did not fire her, he quit. Like yes, cheating is bad, but I'm her employer, not her boyfriend. I just need her to do her job, not stick to her wedding vows. Do I think she's an arsehole for cheating? Yes. Is she an amazing employee who I still think has a lot of potential? Yes. Her co-workers seem to have gotten over the incident, although I cannot even begin to tell you how awkward it was during the first month. She has a great relationship with everyone else and is pleasant and kind to be around. Cheaters can still be leaders. I mean, Bill Clinton was the fucking president. Anyway, I'm posting this here because the guy came back and asked for his job back because he couldn't find another job after COVID hit. His position is still open. I don't want to add that drama into our workplace, even if he is the victim. I said he couldn't have his job back, but I'd give him a reference to another place, and he called me an arsehole because I was choosing the cheater over the victim. He was having a hard time during COVID, and he was ruined by the divorce. Am I the arsehole? During one of his last responses there, where he replied saying you're choosing a cheater over me, kind of thing, that just shows his attitude when he does come back into that role and he's going to be working alongside, you know, his ex-wife. There's still going to be issues. He's still going to have that resentment, and there will be issues caused further down the line. You know, I feel very, very sorry for him for being cheated on, absolutely, but this is a workplace environment, and like you said, you don't want this Jerry Springer shit going on in your workplace, which, let's face it, would happen. But let's read some of the comments to see what they say. Foible Schmoible says, not the arsehole. I would not trust him to stir up shit again if he came back. I'm sorry that he got cheated on, and I'm sorry that he is struggling, but he chose to bring his relationship drama into the office. In defiance of an agreement he signed, he tried to use relationship drama to pressure you into firing a good employee. And he chose to quit, without having a new job lined up I might add, which is a stupid move. And quotes, ultimately said it was him or her, and when I did not fire her, he quit. And then says, don't pull a power move when you don't have any power. And Rainbow Dreaming says, not the arsehole, it's a workplace, not an episode of Jerry Springer. Jerry, I worked in HR and this would be a total nightmare. He's shown in the past that I'd be unprofessional, and bearing in mind his response to your refusal, he clearly hasn't realised he was inappropriate. He would clearly create a difficult environment for all your employees, not just his ex. Definitely stick to your guns. And Cypher Max says, not the arsehole, and quotes, he called me an arsehole because I was choosing the cheater over the victim. And then says, if only she worked there and he never did, would he expect you to fire her? You didn't make a choice to enforce the clear rules and unspoken agreement to keep personal relationship drama out of the workplace. You refused to rehire him for creating a hostile work environment, not for his wife cheating. That's entirely secondary to this. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you think should happen in this situation? Do you think the wife should be fired in this situation? You know, if it was an ideal workplace environment, or do you think something else should happen? Do you think they should rehire the husband after he came back, after everything he's been through, been cheated on, and he's probably in a bad place mentally? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Now, once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And don't forget, we're coming up to the end of our Christmas competition. I mean, we've got like 5 days ahead of us, and then it's closing, and I will be reviewing the pictures. There is some bloody beautiful artwork there at the moment, and I'm absolutely loving seeing it. As mentioned before, some of you guys did ask for some merch. I've got the bare bones of a merch store up, which again is in the description below, and you can support the channel either through YouTube membership with that join button down below, or heading on over to Patreon, where it's all hugely appreciated for what you do for me. I mean, I cannot tell you how much you are changing things for me right now, and I'm just very thankful for it. I hope you're enjoying the stories, and I will see you in the next one. Much love, guys.